Well, it took another 60-minute effort from the Cleveland Browns, but they are now 7-3, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers back-to-back victories over AFC North opponents. Lost to the Ravens, beat them the second time. Lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, beat them a second time. 7-3, Cleveland Browns, DTR, get the W. Your post-game Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, 7 seasons now with you here at Locked On Browns, and I appreciate each and every one of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I suggest you join and don't miss out by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Victory Monday, 7-3. Your Cleveland Browns are now 7-3. Sole possession of second place in the AFC North with a 13-10 home victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers today, and a very, very clear path at a playoff berth. Browns now hold the top wild card spot in the AFC. Again, it took 60 minutes. Cleveland Browns 10-0 at halftime. Pittsburgh Steelers come out. First possession of the second half, Jaylen Warren. Everydayers know, right? Jaylen Warren, who's the one to worry about? Jaylen Warren, Greg Newsome, bad angle. Obviously, the safety, Rodney McLeod, gets caught up. Next thing you know, Jaylen Warren's around the end and gone. 74 yards for a Pittsburgh touchdown. Pittsburgh ties it late, 10-10. Browns had nothing going in the second half. I think it was like 30-something yards. And then all of a sudden, you get the ball back late in the game. And the Browns had no choice. They had to show the faith in DTR. And he was able to put the drive together. Statistically, 4 of 4, obviously 4 of 5 with one opportunity to kill the clock. Passes to Njoku, obviously passes to Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore probably his better day at Cleveland Browns, 6 catches for 60 yards. You really got to give this team credit. It's been a lot of adversity, and obviously from Wednesday to Sunday, finding out after Deshaun Watson, finally getting back to this team, finally playing close to the expectations that this team had for Deshaun Watson. And then you get the news on Wednesday that it's over for this season in 2023. You look to DTR, and yes, Joe Flacco has been signed, but that's not something we're going to get to in this episode. And everybody was kind of wondering why it was DTR and not PJ Walker. And as I told you guys, if you had to make a change and you had to pull DTR, makes a lot more sense to pull the rookie for the veteran than it does to essentially pull the veteran for the rookie. But DTR going to start off pretty good. The passing attempts, I'm actually surprised they threw the ball as much as they did. Really, really surprised by the running back usage today. A lot more Kareem Hunt than I expected. As opposed to Jerome Ford, who's been showing really, really well to this point. I just, that mystery to me, but, again, something we can talk about at another time. But you got into this game, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm going to say this right here and now, there were 2 quarterbacks on this field today. One of them looked like a rookie 5th-round pick, and it was not Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Right off the bat, Myles Garrett, first defensive play with a sack on Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett and the Steelers offense, they were just not there all game. And, I don't want to hear about the offense coordinator. You got a quarterback that just doesn't look like he's getting it done. And, the Pittsburgh Steelers have gotten obviously a lot of luck. They were able to get a lot of turnovers, which aided them to their 6-3 record coming into this game against the Browns. It just didn't look to be there today. It didn't appear to be there today. Offensive side of the ball, they just didn't seem to have it. Outside of the Jalen Warren run, there was not much from the offense. They didn't throw the ball well. They didn't run the ball particularly well. They didn't pass block particularly well. Myles Garrett had 2 sacks. Agbo and Karanko with a monster game. For Agbo, you think about obviously all he's gone through in the last 24 hours, the birth of his first child, still wearing the hospital bracelet, bringing the baby blanket with him today, had a sack, had 4 total tackles for loss all over the field today, played like a man possessed, and obviously, riding, the emotional high of everything he's gone through. Pretty special moment, a little reminiscent maybe of 2018. If everybody remembers Brown's running back against the Jets, Thursday Night Football, obviously, and the opportunity, where he had just come from the hospital and birth of his child. So Agbo Okoronkwo with that opportunity today, getting to go out there and show out, and obviously just feeling it, truly feeling it. A special effort on his part today. Denzel Ward and the secondary. I mean, we talked about Deontay Johnson coming back for Pittsburgh, and he had not been there in the first matchup between these two teams. And you were always worried about Pickens, and Browns handled him well. They certainly handled Deontay Johnson well. Talked about Pat Freiermuth being back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They handled that well as well. This team just continues to grow and get better. And, with every difficult spot they get into, whether it's closing out the Niner game, closing out the Colts game, closing out the Ravens game last week, closing out the Steelers here today, these become defining moments in which, a team becomes a unified team, goes from being a bunch of individual players with talent to 53 guys operating as one. And that has really, really been obviously the most impressive part here of this Browns team over the last few weeks, starting with the 49er game. 1 loss. I guess the Browns now are 4 out of 5 out of 6 since then. But you really get the feeling that this team is starting to understand who they are. They are starting to just get better as far as their respect for each other and, their love for each other. And, sometimes it sounds cliche, and for the most part, maybe it is. But if you can get 53 on the same page, and you can get 53 who believe in each other, and we know with the Browns, this is something that's never really been the case here. There's always been a lot of individuals. A lot of this stuff doesn't happen without success. It's really hard for a team to grow when they're not successful, because when the chips are down, you get a lot of finger pointing, you get a lot of questioning, you get a lot of negativity. It's just part of the game, obviously. But this team right now, to be sitting here at 7-3, be able to come off some really, really big wins over the last few weeks. Obviously the Niner game again, the Colts game, last week against the Ravens, of course. And then, of course, today, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just, that big brother thing is always going to be there with the Steelers. But I honestly felt, and I told you guys in week 2, the Browns lost the game, the Steelers didn't win it. That's why, even though there was no Deshaun Watson today, I felt the Browns had a really, really good opportunity to win this game, which in fact they did. Cleveland Browns 13-10 winners over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Victory Monday continues on here. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns, and I appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you have to do is list what you're looking for as far as experience, education, background, then add your job and a purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. You can put up screening questions, which make it easier to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns victory Monday. Cleveland Browns 13-10 winners over the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Again, another 60-minute affair. Dustin Hopkins, again, closing out another Browns victory with a big field goal down the clutch after a phenomenal drive by Dorian Thompson-Robinson. 4 of 4, technically 4 of 5 with the clock kill, 39 yards, getting everybody involved. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and it got tough late. And if there's people who are going to be critical of his effort today, I get it, I guess. But this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This team has been absolutely really, really strong on the defensive side of the ball. Only one turnover, which was huge, obviously. For him to only have the one turnover his first starting against Baltimore Ravens, and we all know it was 3 turnovers. Coach Stefanski with the play calling found a way to get DTR involved with his legs. A lot of plays where DTR was, throwing on the move. There was a long completion in David Njoku. Obviously, was a great play, taking advantage of the overall athleticism of Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And for the most part, this was a team that was absent of the run game today, the Browns. Certainly had been the calling card here over the last few weeks. Had been a key thing here the last few weeks for the success for the Cleveland Browns was the run game. And you got into this one today, and we all thought DeJuan Jones was going to be back for the Cleveland Browns, and he was back sporadically. But again, second game in a row, you start your fourth and your fifth offensive tackles, Jerron Christensen, James Hudson. And obviously not an ideal spot to be in, but you win 2 conference games in a row with your fourth and fifth offensive tackles. So, kudos all around Coach Stefanski, certainly Coach Callahan, certainly Coach Van Pelt, certainly Andrew Berry for finding these guys and having this kind of depth in here that can contribute in a situation like they did here today. And we'll see where it goes, with DTR. I think the Browns are comfortable with him. And I got to be honest, how do you not gain the ultimate respect? How do you not fall in love with the young man? When Dustin Hopkins kicks that field goal and you see DTR welling up and, see the tears coming from his eyes and, understanding this, where this team is, and now him, I guess, on paper being the starting quarterback for this team and having to go out there and pull out a win against a tough division opponent like the Pittsburgh Steelers, a big rival. And you see the kid, get caught up in the moment. But for a kid like him, it's everything you've ever done. It's your life and everything you've put into it is for you to get to a moment like this and succeed and lead your team to victory and feel like you did your part. These are all things Dorian Thompson-Robinson did today. Is it going to be a long, sustainable run as a starting quarterback in Cleveland? Nobody knows, obviously. With the news after the game, we don't even know if it's going to be a long, sustainable run in 2023. But he will be remembered for today. And, whatever this means going forward for him, I have some pretty good faith in it. Look, not everybody's going to come in against the Browns with a defense capable of the Pittsburgh Steelers. With each start that DTR gets the opportunity to make, things should just get easier and easier for him. It'll allow for Coach Van Pelt and certainly Coach Stefanski to get more comfortable with Dorian as far as plays that they want to call for him, the right looks that they want to go for him, and just these are the ones that'll stick with you. The shellacking of the Arizona Cardinals, that's not one that everybody's going to remember for a long, long time. A game like today, tough game, clutch game, 60-minute game. And you'll remember that Dorian Thompson-Robinson was a difference late in the game. Big drive, great accuracy when it mattered. And again, I think they threw the ball more than I honestly felt they should have. And maybe they just didn't have as much confidence in the running game this week against Pittsburgh Steelers, which is certainly not, certainly possible. But I was surprised. Like if you had told me they were going to throw the ball 40 plus times today against Pittsburgh Steelers with TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, with Dorian Thompson-Robinson at the quarterback, my first thought would have been, oh my God, they're losing by 30. But maybe they just didn't have the confidence. Maybe they just didn't feel that he was able to do the running game was going to be there. Maybe they had, and again, I've talked about this and the everydayers know, the Browns struggle against the odd front, the 3-4 teams. So maybe they just felt that matchup wasn't really going to work out for them as well today as they hoped. The biggest run that I can even remember today, obviously, was the Kareem Hunt I guess it was about 12 yards, which led to the hurdle at the end, obviously, to get the first down. It wasn't, pretty by any means whatsoever. It's not, you're certainly not going to hang it in the Louvre. Alex Van Pelt is not going to get hired for a head coaching position off of what this Browns offense did today. But they don't all have to be pretty. They all count the same. This team is now 7-3. This team is now the top seed in the AFC as far as wildcard standings are concerned. This team certainly controls its own destiny towards a playoff berth, controls its own destiny towards a possible AFC North title. For where this team was starting week one, and we thought it was going to be the Deshaun show and the rebirth of Deshaun Watson. Then you're 2-1, but Deshaun Watson's out for a while. Then you scurry and you get better, and Deshaun comes back and wins 2 games. And then you get the devastating news on Wednesday that Deshaun Watson's season is over. It's not PJ Walker, it's DTR. They bring in Joe Flacco for a workout. And, apparently Andrew Berry, before he left the building today, made sure he, got the agreement from Joe Flacco that Joe Flacco will take care of this team and be this team's, be with this team on the practice squad starting this week with the, game plan of elevating him to the active roster. I don't know if you're trying to look at Joe Flacco and say you're going to be the backup quarterback, or, hey, we have a backup plan if it doesn't work out for DTR. And again, these are things we'll revisit. And of course, we'll know more as the media gets time with Coach Stefanski as the week goes on. But for DTR, this is, DTR, what do they play during the NCAA tournament? One shining moment. For now, and after a miserable and a horrible taste in his mouth from his first career start against the Baltimore Ravens, gets the opportunity to get back off the mat. And, I know a lot of people were surprised, and thought it would be PJ Walker. Me personally, again, I told you what I had heard from on the way back from Seattle, that if it was going to be another guy to start other than Deshaun Watson, it was going to be Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The Browns really, really grew more enamored with the young man. The Raven loss, the Raven start. There's the old adage of you don't know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. And for DTR, I think that was that day, that whole experience against the Ravens was a huge case of, you don't know till you're there. And, now that he had a little taste of it, and obviously coming in every week, putting in the work, starting to mindset himself, to work like a starter, even when you're not, which has got to be really difficult for a guy who spent so much time at UCLA and was the starter for as long as he was at UCLA. But now, you find a way to make it work for you as you make that next jump here in, obviously the NFL. So for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I highly anticipate he will start next week against the Denver Broncos. Probably controls his own destiny at this point for how long he will be the starting quarterback for this team. But this was the one you needed. It gets you to 7-3. You now sole possession of second place in the AFC North. You are now the top wild card team in the AFC. Things got easier, and for this team with this win, and we talked about it, man. Now you are now on a less congested highway towards the NFL playoffs if you're the Cleveland Browns. This was the game they had to have. They went out, handled their business. Defense looked great. Offense did just enough. Dustin Hopkins, one of the unsung stories of the 2023 NFL season. We're going to get to a little bit more about the defense. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns Victory Monday. He was a nail-biter today, and you may need food for the beginning of the game. You may need food for halftime. You certainly, if you're watching the Cleveland Browns, need food for the last 2 minutes. So whenever the game clock stops, it's time to order in DoorDash. You can get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. When you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23, subject to change, terms apply. Why would you root for your team on an empty stomach? Order in DoorDash and save on football and watch party favorites. If you had friends over today, you could have called over Athens Pizzeria, brought in some pizzas, some sandwiches, some appetizers, all things to get you through what was a very, very nerve-wracking Browns game. But either way, the nerves don't kill the hunger. You can get prepared for game day each and every week by stocking up on your favorite appetizers and order all your tailgate gear on DoorDash, and then get ready to watch the Browns win. Get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. When you're downloading the DoorDash app and you enter the promo code LOCK23, of course, subject to change, terms apply. Don't forget to use the code LOCKED23 for 50% off, up to $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change, terms apply. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns Victory Monday, and I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, the numbers keep getting higher and higher, and we love to have you all here. If you're not part of the everyday crowd, don't miss out on the party anymore. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Of course, Locked On Browns always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Again, Victory Monday, first half, Browns 10-0. You get close in the second half, under 2 minutes of regulation, 10-10 Browns Steelers. Browns get the ball. You put that ball in the hands of the rookie quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He proceeds to go 4 for 4, almost 40 yards, gets his team into field goal range, and you get it again. Dustin Hopkins, one of the most under-talked about moves. And look, Andrew Berry put together a really, really good roster this year, made a lot of moves to improve this team over the offseason. And one of the last moves he did for this team was obviously the trade that brought in Dustin Hopkins to replace Cade York. And again, Dustin Hopkins gets his team to victory. Myles Garrett, now I don't know if you guys saw it, Mike Florio spoke today. And I don't know if Mike was mincing his words or, either way, I'm okay with it, Mike Florio. Speaking about the fact that Myles Garrett should actually be into MVP considerations. I ain't got a problem with it. Defensive Player of the Year, absolutely no doubt. Is Myles Garrett in a weird, wonky year where you're losing a lot of playmakers from this league? Is Myles Garrett truly an MVP candidate? My response to that is, let's get to the end of the regular season and see some more wins. And you can give Myles Garrett every accolade you want. But set the tone, obviously, right from the first defensive snap. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I don't know how you base that, because the way I think it should be based is where the ball was in revelation to the goal line. And the way I saw it, the goal line and the football were aligned. So that Kenny Pickett sack in the first quarter, 100%, in my opinion, should have been a safety. They almost get it on the next one, of course. Najee Harris maybe gets just a sniff of green grass outside that goal line. Again, defensively, the only issue today obviously was the Jalen Warren run right out of halftime. And it was a terrible angle by Greg Newsome. And Greg's been playing really well the last couple of weeks, so it's not like we're trying to point a finger at Greg Newsome. McLeod himself got caught up a little bit inside. Should have been there, obviously, to at least shove Warren out of bounds. Rodney McLeod played hard today. I know he did leave the game early. Rodney McLeod was out there. He was hitting today. He was out there. The big boy stuff. Every physical altercation he had, he brought the thunder, which is what you expect when you're playing a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You be the hammer, you don't be the nail. And you saw that today. And defensively, obviously, Anthony Walker ended up leaving the game. Sione Takitaki. And of course, we know Sione's here on a 1-year deal, obviously, signed after the injury last year, with the opportunity to rehab here, get football shape, get back into his absolute best physical ability here with the Browns. And he's just been a real absolute remarkable player for this team. Browns are going to have to make a decision on one of these two linebackers, whether it's Anthony Walker or Sione Takitaki, about one of them being around long-term. My guess is, it should be Sione Takitaki. You've seen just the growth of this player, beginning from the first system, of course, now to here in the second system, where he's just really, really coming of age and just playing within himself. The secondary play, Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward is probably the guy that looks in the mirror and thinks he is 6'3", 240 pounds, because he plays like an outside linebacker. Crazy physicality. The one tackle obviously knocked his own helmet off, knocked his headband off. Denzel Ward plays with reckless abandon. We all know at times it is one of the worst things for Denzel Ward and certainly causes him some issues. But for a guy that's considered a true cover corner, this guy has no bones about it. And this guy will get dirty. This guy will get physical, especially when a game is on a line or, making a statement hit that matters in a big, crucial situation. Martin Emerson continues just to grow and grow. And obviously he was mic'd up today. If you saw the way he was with DTR at the end of the game, giving the kid the kudos and, just becoming a fixture for this team, Martin Emerson. The safety play, Grant Telpett, consistent week in, week out. You didn't have Juan Thornhill today. McLeod left early, which, led to some reps for Hickman. Obviously some reps for, DeAnthony Bell. But this team just continues. And week in, week out, you can find any guy in the roster, whether it's one of the top guys of Myles Garrett, one of the lowest guys in the roster, like a guy like Ronnie Hickman. These guys give an all-out effort, like Ronnie Hickman, like Jaron Christian, like Hudson. These guys, week in, week out, go 60 minutes. And that is the most impressive thing, because once you get into a couple of these ball games that go the entire length of the game, you never feel like you're out of it. And that has been key for the Browns to this point. Every week, they almost got to go bell to bell. So they know they've got late game opportunities. And it's not always easy when you get in these last minute ball games. But when you have several of them in a row or several of them within a season, the old adage of it ain't over till it's over, guys start to believe in that because you've seen it and you still feel it and you still remember what it's like to be in the situation. And that has been key. It has been paramount for the Cleveland Browns' success here over the last few weeks. Currently now 7-3. Sole possession, second place in the AFC North. The number one wild card team in the AFC to this point. Victory Monday. Browns 7-3 will face the Denver Broncos next week. I am Jeff Lloyd. I'm your host here at Locked On Browns. I appreciate everybody that makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Do not miss the party. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel and find out what it's all about. And as far as podcasts, wherever you get your audio podcast, Locked On Browns is always available, always for free. Your second listen of the day, let me recommend Locked On Sports. At Locked On Sports, we go 247, 24/7. There will be a Locked On podcast rolling through that YouTube page all day long, every day. And obviously, the way the Browns are playing right now, you're going to find a lot of Locked On Browns over there as well. Browns win. Second place in the North. Currently, the top wild card seed in the AFC. And this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.